Right, let's have a look at the key challenges and concerns that are being sort of presented to me from my network of learning and development specialists. These are some questions which were sent through to me ahead of the talks that I did over the past couple of months. So these are sort of, if you like, from the horse's mouth. Lawyers thinking that CPD is now optional. Attendance levels, getting lawyers to take the SRA requirements seriously. What does the minimum look like? These are all valid questions, all valid concerns. Let's unpick them. Lawyers thinking that CPD is now optional or acting as if it were. Let's bear in mind that the current 16 hours requirement has been in place since 1985. So it's not a surprise that that whole I do CPD because I have to in order to get the hours has become in some quarters deeply rooted. It's a rather unfortunate mindset, actually. It wasn't really what the SRA, or rather the Law Society at the time, intended. It has to be said, but there we are. It's what happened. The SRA is now saying that solicitors actually they don't have to do CPD per se. They only have to do the CPD they need to remain competent and to provide a proper standard of service on the Principle 5. And when put in those terms, actually, if we're being very, very honest, in many cases, this might not be a lot of CPD. So, on one level, lawyers who present to you in this respect, in this way, are on one level absolutely right to think that CPD is now optional, at least as far as the regulator is concerned. And it flows inexorably from that attendance levels will drop for traditional CPD. And there are all sorts of challenges here. There is a challenge around ensuring continued relevance of CPD to particular lawyers, but actually I think it goes beyond that. It goes around the idea of almost creating a new set of rules, a new CPD contract almost with solicitors, with firms taking the place of the SRA. Firms are the employer. They are fully entitled, and it's quite reasonable for them to tell solicitors what they have to do. Particularly, not just from an employer-employee perspective, but also because, of course, the firm has entity-level obligations in the handbook to train lawyers appropriately and to the right standard, given what they do in relation to their client work. But I think that the thing that we have to be clear about is in a sense almost being honest about what lawyers are being asked to do, and what they have to do and what they don't have to do. And this may lead, I think, some firms to potentially reclassify CPD, almost having a hierarchy of CPD, starting with you will do this, and if you don't, there are serious consequences, right through to you can do this, we want you to do this, if you're serious about your future at this firm you will do it, but we can't force you to do it. And as is suggested there, internal consequences is the thing. We have to be very, very clear about that. And this links seamlessly to this idea or this concern around getting our lawyers to take the SRA requirements seriously. Because I think what we've been building up to really is a pretty simple proposition, which that this gets it completely round the wrong way. What firms need to do going forward is to get lawyers to take your requirements seriously. It's not forget about the SRA requirements, but it's about making it clear to your solicitors, to your employees, that you expect them to do certain things in this field, and that if they don't, there will be consequences. And therefore, I think there is a piece of work really that firms need to engage with around identifying your minimum expectations, developing that clear consequences system and enforcing it. And again, at the risk of a rather sort of hackneyed analogy, in parenting terms, if you're going to have a naughty step, you both have to show children where it is, but also critically, you put them on the naughty step if they don't do what you've asked them to do. And this is very much, I think, where firms need to engage brain and be quite explicit about what this looks like. But of course, and particularly if we fold in the fact that the competence statement relates to all practicing solicitors, no matter how senior, this, for it to work at all levels in the firm, will require senior buy-in at the very highest level of the organisation. So firms need to engage with that and work out what it is that they're going to do. Similarly, what does the acceptable minimum look like? Well, of course, this will depend very much upon the individual. We've talked about this. It's very much about sort of thinking about their needs. And an NQ, for example, will need potentially a lot more CPD than a senior lawyer who, on one interpretation may be able to maintain their competence, for example, by just keeping up to date with LawTel updates. There's a bit of a problem with that, which is that the competence statement, does explicitly refer to other competencies, for example, in relation to the softer skills and the business skills. But it is possible to see an interpretation which implies or justifies a minimum engagement with CPD. The key thing, it seems to me, is that, and the challenge of the new regime, is that each lawyer's level of learning development activity must be capable of objective justification with reference to the competence statement, both before, during, and not just after the event. And that will raise some challenges for law firms. Okay, we'll leave it there before having a quick look at this idea of reflection.